Hello, Internet Art students. My name is Bane Hurst from TotalDrawing.com. Thank you for joining me in this first of a two-part series on linear perspective, particularly one-point perspective. What is one-point perspective? You're about to find out. But in short, it's a system of drawing that better allows us to represent spatial relationships in terms of creating depth in our artwork. If you want your art to look more realistic, if you want it to make sense spatially, it's not a bad idea to learn to use 1-point, 2-point, and 3-point perspective. Herein, we're going to focus on 1-point perspective. Let's get started. Welcome to 1-Point Perspective Cityscape, brought to you by TotalDrawing.com. In this video tutorial, you'll learn to use a vanishing point, you'll learn to place a horizon line, and to create depth in your works of art. You will need a ruler, a pencil, an eraser, and drawing paper. That's it. Let's get started. We're going to start by finding the center of our paper and coming down just a small amount from the center and adding a vanishing point. Under the vanishing point, let's draw a horizontal line that represents the horizon where the sky meets the land. I'm going to start by drawing a street. My ruler is in line with the vanishing point, and I'm going to draw two diagonal lines. The one on the left ends on the bottom edge of the page, but notice that the line on the right ends above the bottom right corner. I'm going to put a second set of lines next to these two to make sidewalks. We're going to draw a cityscape, and in order to build a city, we need a road to get to that city. All of the lines that are drawn in this video tutorial are going to be either straight up and down, horizontal, or radiate from the vanishing point. In order to make a sidewalk look like it's flat on the ground, I'm going to add cracks to the sidewalk that are horizontal, not tilted, but horizontal. There's also vertical cracks on the sidewalks, and I'll repeat this L configuration, this horizontal and vertical line that form a right angle across the sidewalks. These lines will get closer together, as you can see, as we move up towards the horizon. It's very important that the horizontal lines on the top of your sidewalk are not tilted. They're not diagonal. They must be parallel to the bottom or top edge of your paper. Going straight across to the left side of our page, the sidewalk on the left, I'll add the horizontal cracks into this sidewalk, opposite the horizontal cracks on the sidewalk on the right. Now that we have a road, it's time to start a building. We're going to begin with a building on the left side of our page. We're going to begin with a vertical line, that is a line that's parallel to the right and left side of our page. And we're actually drawing a shape. Anytime we use 1-point perspective, we start with a shape. So here I've drawn a rectangular shape, most of which is above the horizon line. And you can go ahead and erase the horizon line where it passes through a rectangular shape. Connect the top right corner to the vanishing point, and notice that the bottom right corner is already pointing towards the vanishing point due to it sharing the edge of the sidewalk. Let's go ahead and chop off this form in space with another vertical line between the first and the vanishing point. It looks like we have a big block, which is a building. Before we add windows and doors, let's add a second building by simply drawing a vertical line slightly closer to the left edge of the paper up from the sidewalk and then erasing the horizon line and the parts of the first building that overlap the second. In order to have a building, we need windows. I'm going to go ahead and start by drawing two rectangles on the first building that we drew. I want this building to be a two-story building. I'll make sure my rectangles are similar in size by comparing them using my pencil. Now I don't need the vanishing point to draw windows on this side of the first building, but I do for the second set of windows on the street side of this building. So I've extended the bottom and top edges of the top window to the corner of the building, and now I'm drawing a guideline from those points towards the vanishing point. You can draw these lines all the way to the vanishing point or just until you run out of building. Now, to add the windows to the street side of this building, we need to make sure that the right and left sides of these windows are vertical, straight up and down. When using one-point perspective, lines that are straight up and down in real life always stay straight up and down. Alright, I've got to figure out how to finish the bottom story of my building on the street side. And I'm going to add a door. Notice that I've used a guideline from the vanishing point to help me tilt the top of the door. And I want to make sure that the window that I put on the bottom story of this building is similar or would be the same in height as the window on the side. So again, I've used a wraparound line to help me gauge the rate at which that street side first story window would reduce in size. I'm adding a little bit of a detail to the windows, trying to make them look a little bit more three-dimensional. You can copy that, or you can leave your windows flush with the front edge of the building, the front facade of the building. I've decided to make the windows deeper or lower on the first building and then to copy or mimic that on the second building. These are going to be like storefront windows, large windows that would have some sort of a display inside. Notice the top and bottom edge of the storefront window on the first building point towards the vanishing point. And I want to make sure that the top and bottom edge of our large showcase window on the second building is also radiating from the vanishing point. So just note that the vanishing point is meant to deal with horizontal edges that are tilted towards or away from you in space. The design of building number 2 is going to be the same as building number 1. I'm going to put a doorway just right next to that large showcase window. Not sure how tall I'm going to make it yet. I've put a couple of lines that represent horizontal lines in place and selected the bottom one. I'm going to add a small detail in the doorway of the first building, just a little stair step. It's not necessary, but you can add it in. And I'm going to shade a little bit in there. I'm going to save most of the shading of this drawing to the very end, but I like to throw in just a few darker shadows for contrast along the way. Alright, you'll notice that the second story window on our second building is in line with the bottom edge of the second story windows on the street side of the first building. I'm going to make this window a little dimensional as well, except the frame of this window is going to protrude into space from the facade of the second building instead of recess into the facade of the first building. Now let's add something of a detail to the top edge of the first building. I've made a wavy line at an angle from the top corner, and from the top of my wavy line I'll draw a horizontal line towards the left and then a extreme diagonal down towards my vanishing point. Now whatever type of wavy line you use, you'll need to redraw that, only a smaller version of it, from the top most right corner of that first building. We've added a little bit of architectural element, a little bit of molding to the top of this block. It makes it look a little more like a building, doesn't it? And I'm just working a little bit inside my picture window. We're going to put some dresses in this window. We're going to sell dresses on a mannequin. Notice that one mannequin is larger than the other, but if you line up the top and bottom elements of the mannequin, they line up according to the vanishing point. So in reality they would be the same size, only one's closer. Alright, I've just added a tiny little separation to the top and interior side of the doorway on building number 2. Now if you've missed any steps, be sure to watch this video again. You can pause it along the way just to make sure all of your lines are in place. Please tune in for One Point Perspective Cityscape Part 2, and we'll handle the other side of the street and shading.